Welcome everyone. Hail to my fellow Selvan citizens. I am the prophet of Pagulane. Come, join me by the fire. Sit a while and hear a thrilling and dramatic tale like no other. Walk the path with me amongst the gods of old in each chapter of Book 1, Fall of Immortals. Chapter 17, Kage Ni. 2 weeks and several months had passed as Zaldin and his incarnations traveled across the supercontinent, heading southeast towards the land of Brahma. The first portion of their long journey was made down the river, which flowed beside Silver City, and then southeast across the Darklands in a private carriage. Zaldin and Zara were accompanied by a light contingent of soldiers, small enough numbers to avoid extravagant attention and large enough to deter potential assailants that may be looking for a ransom. Their orders were to escort the vice-regent as far as the docks and await his return, which they happily followed. The Selvan infantrymen had keen instincts and were now seasoned elite warriors, yet the very sight of the island made their fur stand on end. The ride overall was uneventful, though the splendor of the changing terrain as they moved further and further south was spectacular. They arrived at a port, then traversed the desert, and passed through villages in the jungle. A few obstacles and beasts presented themselves along the journey. However, the infantry were more than equipped to mitigate anything that would threaten or prolong their journey. Upon arrival in Brahman City, they found a fruitful and fertile land. The majority of its population were the Smartans, those who worshipped the god Brahma, and its rivers provided minerals that enriched the soil, yielding bountiful crops. Harvests of rice, wheat, fruits, vegetables, and cotton are all plucked from the fields of farmlands. The city was blessed with a bounty of resources such as timber, gold, silver, and precious stones, which were all mined within Brahman's borders. The vice-regent took admirable notice of the city's infrastructure with consideration to housing, irrigation, streets, and storerooms for food depositories. It seemed as if the Spartans were decades ahead of civilizations to the north. On the other hand, the island Kage Ni, the infamous domain of the Kawakami, was a dark and ominous landmass. The ferryman paddled a mile away from the city dock before the water around the island became dark, as if the sky did not reflect above it. If one could afford a bird's-eye view, you would see the many fishermen forming a circle around the island, none drifting too close to the island shore. As the ferryman entered the murky shore of Kage Ni, his trembling hands expressed a deeply rooted fear of the island, though the need to keep bread on the table inspires many men to test their nerves and their fortune. Seagulls were singing their gluttony overhead as the ferryman told tales and stories surrounding the island and about the clans said to dwell there. How sometimes, at night, shadows can be seen dancing on the water around the island, the many traps that awaited past explorers, and the most cautionary of all, the old man that rules within the mountain forest. Zara considered it a bore. Simple folk tales and superstition. Conversely, Zaldin was entertained by the ferryman's stories. A laugh escaped him once he began comparing the ferryman's warnings to the facts Xanatos provided prior to him embarking on the journey. Zemnis, now too large to play beneath Zaldin's cloak, leaped onto the sand with excitement as Zaldin and Zara disembarked, giving the ferryman his well-earned leave. The terrain they traversed thereafter was covered in bamboo trees and gray hills. The sounds of exotic, unidentifiable birds were randomly heard as they hiked the island, searching for what most others seek to avoid. Gusts of wind would whip through the leaves, and metallic grinding could be heard slightly, disguised by the natural sounds of nature. They were being watched. Xemnas sniffed the air and growled as he looked from left to right. "Zara, you could feel it too, can't you?" whispered Zaldin. "Feels like we're surrounded, but I don't see anything but tree, rock, and shadows," she replied. They ventured further into the island, passing the withered bones and rusted swords of previous trespassers. What was left of their skeletons had been deeply pierced by metallic stars and diamond-shaped knives. After hours spent hiking, the vice-regent and his companions arrived at a temple, and the gate was partially opened, as if someone was expecting a guest. Protecting the inner sanctum of the temple and holding up the gate was an old brown wall of wood and stone. The stone formed cracks, weathered from the passage of time, and the overall structure of the temple seemed well-aged yet fortified in order to compensate. Immediately past the gate was a training yard of stone tiles and gray bricks. The temple pillars and inner walls were mahogany red, while bronze statues of the native god Shiva sat on top of the roofs and railings. A statue of Vishnu decorated the bonsai garden further into the temple yard. It stood in front of the steps to the temple's main doors. Approaching the rows of bonsai trees, the legionnaires found an old man wearing a straw hat and dark robes. "What do you seek here?" the old man asked as he carefully clipped branches from the bonsai tree. The test of time showing only in his face, the old man's hair was as dark as his clothes, and in his eyes were years of wisdom and low tolerance. "New life," Zaldin responded as he walked up to the end of the row. "Life?" the old man repeated before releasing a throat of laughter. "It has been ages since I was able to laugh at something so preposterous. What man walks into the shadows seeking gifts of light?" he then asked. "The lives I seek will not serve the light, and the shadows will not be able to contain them." Shogun of the Heavens Book 1 is available on Amazon and Amazon Kindle or for order at your local Barnes & Noble's bookstore. The Amazon link to purchase the book is in the description of the video. Behold, as we all dive into the world of myths and fiction. Book 2, The Throne Crusher, is still set to be released on December 9th, 2024. This installment changes the tempo of the story, allowing us to go deeper into popular role characters who will now step to the forefront of this epic tale. On this channel, we will be providing you a series of samples read from the Shogun of the Heavens book series and complemented by visuals from the story as envisioned by the author. Please like and share the video, subscribe to our channel, and comment below. Then, while you're at it, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where you can compare our competing galleries of artworks brought to life from the story. Thank you.